Hello and welcome to Sam's Kitchen Chronicles. As you know by now, I've been in Korea for some time, and being here as an expat, I have yet to find a single good place that serves a good bowl of Vietnamese pho. If you found a good pho place, please let me know. It's all the more unfortunate for me because I love pho. Every time I go back home to the US, pho is on the top of my list for things I need to eat. So you can imagine my disappointment when I came to Korea to find that there's no decent place that serves a good bowl of pho, at least that I've come across. And it's the strangest thing because more and more in Korea you can find good foreign food these days. But still, for some reason, I cannot find a good bowl of pho. So I've decided to take matters into my own hands. After doing some research, I found that pho is deceptively simple, but the trade-off is in patience, and you'll need a lot of it, like most good things in life. And though there are obstacles to attaining a good bowl of pho, through this video, I want to show you that your goal is for the taking. So join me in my quest for a good bowl of pho. I call it a quest because it's really a journey, full of obstacles. Surmountable, but obstacles nonetheless. The first obstacle is in the ingredients. You might have to do some legwork. Unless you live in Itaewon, if you don't cook as much as I do, you might not have a lot of these ingredients laying around the house. I had to visit at least 4 stores to get the ingredients for this video, and I already had most of the ingredients. But trust me, it's worth it. So you'll need beef bones, brisket, extra meat. I go for the thinly sliced sirloin. And if you're into this kind of stuff, you can get tendon and tripe. You'll need 2 onions, 2 big pieces of ginger. For the spices, you'll need 4 cinnamon sticks, 4 cardamom pods, 1 tablespoon of coriander, 10 stars of anise, 10 stars of anises, 10 stars of anise, 1 tablespoon of fennel, 5 cloves. You'll also need some rock sugar. For the garnishes, mung bean sprouts, Thai basil, jalapeno or chili, cilantro, some green onions, and lime. For the sauces, you'll need some sriracha if you want it spicy, fish sauce, and you want to get some hoisin sauce. And of course you need some rice noodles. Most of these ingredients you can get at a local grocery store. However, a good chunk of these can only be found in foreign food marts. I like to go to Foreign Food Mart in Itaewon. There you can find ingredients like cinnamon, cardamom, coriander, star of anise, fennel, cloves, cilantro, rock sugar, and sriracha. If you want those extra cuts of meat, you'll have to find a butcher that sells them. Just search for 정육점. Fun little side story, I went to my local 정육점. They asked me if I was a chef because they see me come in quite often asking for interesting cuts of meat. Anyway, they asked me if I was a chef, and I told them no, but that I do YouTube. And so they're asking me all these questions, they wished me luck, and they even threw in a little extra for me. A tip for meat: the best prices I've seen are either at Costco or a local butcher that has imported American beef, though it's usually frozen. Hanwoo is just too expensive in my opinion. Honestly, I can't really tell the difference. Then again, I've never done a side-by-side comparison. Who knows, maybe they are different, I don't know. I just don't think it's worth the markup. Case in point, just at Costco, Hanwoo brisket costs about 60,000 won for 1.5 kilos. For fresh USDA brisket, same cut of meat, 30,000. That's half the price. And then go even further, if you get frozen imported American, frozen USDA, you're paying 15,000 for 1.5 kilos. So we're talking about a half and another half. So it's a quarter of the price if you just get frozen USDA. And it's not as if I'm making steak with it. I'm just boiling it in broth, so I'm not worried about having it as fresh as possible. So if you're going for maximum savings, you'll need to make 3 to 4 trips to different stores. But if you plan your commute, you can make it count. Now, if you'd rather just pay for the convenience of visiting less stores, go to your local grocery store for whatever you can find there, and then get everything else that you can't find there at a foreign food mart in Itaewon. One more thing. You can't get Thai basil at Foreign Food Mart. They only sell what I think is sweet basil, and it's used mostly for Italian cooking. Thai basil is what is served at pho places. And so far, the only place I found close to me in Hongdae is Thai Food World Mart. Go ahead and check out their store. Once you have your ingredients, the cooking process is relatively simple. Like I said, you just need a lot of patience. And without further ado, let's get this started. Cut ginger lengthwise. Cut onion in half. Some people do this in the oven. Some do it on a skillet. Others do it straight on the burner. I've done the oven method before and I feel like the recipe I followed the first time wasn't so helpful, so this time I'm gonna try charring it on the cast iron skillet. Next, we take our spices and toast them. We take the bones and we parboil them. 5 minutes should be fine. The point of this isn't to really cook the meat, it's really just to release the bits of blood and debris and to get a clear broth. And if you do this part correctly, then you don't really have to worry about skimming the broth while you're simmering it. Add the bones, brisket, onion, ginger, and spices. Now we just simmer this napun namja for 3 hours. You can go longer if you want, but most sources online tell me that 3 hours is sufficient. I also wonder if boiling it longer will yield a milky broth like 설렁탕. And I know that the pho I've had isn't really milky. It's pretty clear broth. But maybe that's a question to explore sometime in the future. Throughout the simmer, skim the top as needed, but if you parboil the bones correctly, like I said, you shouldn't need to. Remove the brisket after about 1.5 hours. Now after doing some research, I found that some recipes call for removing the onions around this time. I felt that I left the onions in for too long the first time I made the pho, so this time I'm gonna try removing them. After doing some more research, some recipes remove the onions after 20 minutes. I might try that next time. Add your rock sugar, salt, and fish sauce. After 3 hours, you're done. You can remove the bones and strain the broth. Serve immediately, or you can store the broth after it cools. Usually the beef bones will have meat on them. Some people might not like this, but I'm all about this gelatinous stuff. Feel free to add it to your dish if you like. Make sure to wash your vegetables. And now we're gonna cut our chilies, green onions, and limes. And you can place them all on a plate. Slice the brisket. For the noodles, make sure to use rice noodles and just follow the directions on the packaging. And now, let's bring it all together. So like I mentioned before, this is the second time that I've attempted making pho. And there are a few things that I would do differently next time. For one, I think I'm gonna peel the onions completely and not cook them for so long. Next time I think I'll limit the onions to 20 minutes. A second thing I would do differently is boiling the broth. Again, a lot of the recipes I read said 3 hours is sufficient, but then some people say that you really have to boil it for at least 5 hours, overnight preferably. So I think I'm gonna try that. Another thing, I would add a little bit more salt next time. I typically undersalt things as a general rule because you can't really take salt out, but you can always add salt after you're done. But for this, I would add a little bit more. Next, this is a small thing, but I'd cut the sirloin into smaller pieces, maybe half of what I showed you in the video. That was just carelessness on my part. And finally, next time I'm gonna keep the broth boiling hot when I'm adding it to the bowl. I wanted to keep it safe and not let the noodles get overcooked, and so I kinda let it cool, and that was a big mistake. You can also see that the meat didn't cook all the way through in the broth, which isn't such a big problem for me because I don't mind having rare meat in my bowl. Simply put, serve the broth hot. Well, that's it. Thank you for joining me on my quest for a good bowl of pho in Korea. In this video, I showed you where you can get ingredients for pho in Korea. I showed you what the main components of pho were and how to prepare the dish. So next time you want to complain about the lack of pho in Korea, or you hear someone else complaining, just remind yourself that with just a little bit of legwork and a little bit of patience, you could be enjoying your very own homemade pho. Now I know that most of you will probably never end up doing this, but for those of us whose lives have been forever changed by that unforgettable experience of having your craving of pho fulfilled, you understand. From one fanatic to another, we understand that sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. I just want to say that for all the fanatics out there, I know how you feel, and that's why I made this video. I did it for you. Well, that's it for now. If you liked my video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share. Stay tuned for the mukbang edition. I will be having my first guests to have this pho with me. So if you want to watch us eat this napun namja, stay tuned and click this link. This link? This link. This link. Click this link.